It's that time of year again. The 2025 Ford Ancient Restored Machinery Show. Walking through the static display. Plenty of John Deeres. I covered most of these in the video for the parade, so I won't call them out one by one unless I see something that excites me. Here's the sea of green, the John Deeres, the GPs, general purposes. There's a F.A.R.M, of course, it's near and dear to my heart. Had one for a very long time. Not quite in good enough condition to come to the show. Maybe next year. Cases. Some more Farmalls. Pointed out earlier about 3-point hitches that a lot of these classics don't have 3-point hitches. See, they have drawbars. Some of them have some non-standard 3 points. They're not the Ferguson system. Here's one that has a standard, class 2. A lot of these have belt pulleys. We'll see some belt powered equipment here soon. If you come around the rear though, you see drawbars. That's great for pulling plows and discs, but you don't have the lifting capability for a lot of implements. So if you want to get a classic tractor that is useful in the modern world, you really want a 3-point hitch, also known as the Ferguson system, that can be added to a lot of tractors. There are add-on kits for many of the classic tractors, but they're maybe a little hard to find and a little expensive. There's a nice Caterpillar crawler. So adding a 3-point hitch, I'm not a classic John Deere guy, but I don't know that you can add one to a GP, not even sure if it has hydraulics. So that's a drawback for people who want to really use them. You see over here a couple of these Internationals and Olivers have plows attached. You have to either have a 3-point hitch to pick up that plow, or you have to have hydraulics on the plow, so you have to have a hydraulic sender circuit back to it. Unless you go very classic on this Oliver row crop here with a 2-bottom, has the manual lift. You got to crank the crank. So you are the hydraulic system. Another F.A.R.M M. Much nicer condition than mine. You see the drawbar, no 3-point. Like the crawlers. Let's get up close on this Minneapolis Moline A4T 1600. A great machine. We use that guy for smoothing out the track. Here's a bigger sled. I talked about the sled before, the smaller sled that was for the cultivator class. Again, real quick, the weight box starts at the back over the tires, so low friction, relatively easy to pull, and the sled it doesn't have a lot of weight on it. The mechanism here, the chain drive mechanism, is geared to the rear end. So as the sled is pulled down the track, the cable system pulls the weight box farther and farther forward, putting more and more weight over the sled, makes it harder and harder to pull. So at some point, you're gonna run out of power, or you're gonna hit the end of the track, which we call a full pull. Here goes a 4520. A mighty machine. The sled is pulled by this one, 4630. A little hard to read there, but I think that's what it says. An excellent 6-cylinder with a cab. Everyone likes a cab. A little bit more rare over here. We saw some of this in the parade. The long A. the Graham Bradley. Couple of Fords, the 4000. I know we saw that in the parade. Large cultivator over here. Here's an example of a big implement that you could run without a 3-point hitch because it has its own hydraulics. But you do have to have a hydraulic system to hook up those hoses and send pressure back here to raise and lower the machine. So again, you could pull that with a strong tractor with the drawbar as long as it has one hydraulic circuit. You don't have to have a 3-point hitch. The Super AV over here, as I mentioned before, the V stands for vegetation. And you'll see that it's got gears in the differential in the rear end so that the tractor can sit much higher above the center line of the tires. So the vegetation, or the row croppers, the ones that want to get high above the crops, will have a V in the model number of a F.A.R.M letter series. Some people are just here for the food, I think. All right, we're going to start prepping the track for the tractor pull. Got a John Deere 1070 with the 440 loader. Pulling the small sled down here, smooth everything out. You can see how the weight progresses from the rear where the tires are up onto the sled for higher friction. So as you go down the track, it gets harder and harder to pull as the weight transfers over to the sled part. There's a much bigger one over there for the bigger tractors. This is a small one for the cultivator class. All right, we're getting hooked up here for the first cultivator class. A case. Let's see what he's got. That weight transfer is coming up. It's going to get harder and harder. Does he have it? He's struggling. The traction is starting to hurt him. He's pulling it. Still working. Getting a little bogged down, but he's got the power. Let's see if he's got the traction. Getting harder and harder. He's not struggling. He's got power. Does he have traction? Yep, that's it. Here goes another cultivator class. Let's see what the JD has for us. Dogging down a little. That's all he's got. Okay, here's the return of the wagon ride around the lake. Oliver Super 88. Bunch of people having a good time. Some of my people waving over there. My wife, 2 kids, and a granddaughter. Some Alice Chalmers over here, WD-45. I don't know exactly the model number of this one. It's a small, but it's a 4-cylinder, has electric start and the manual crank. WD-45, of course. The WD, very popular with collectors. There was a popular series of books all about a man who restored several WDs. And I think that helped generate interest in them. So you'll always see Alice Chalmers at these shows. A favorite aspect of these shows are the antique hit and miss engines. Very large, very heavy. Not a lot of power by today's standards, but an amazing amount of torque. Those huge flywheels keep the piston coming around at such a low RPM. And you hear the hit and miss ignition system generally hits. There's some exposed valve train there. You can see the rocker arms from outside. These things ran belts for accessory drive. We'll see some belt fed equipment, belt run equipment here soon. Again, external valve train. They run on propane at the show, nice and clean, not much smell. Here's a true classic, the Minneapolis. Transverse mounted engine. You see the crankshaft drives that flywheel and pulley drive to the side. There's the belt pulley. You can see the ejection pump up there. Steel wheels. The rear steelies have some rubber coating so they don't absolutely destroy everything. But what a beauty. We'll allow a tractor this modern because its only job is to feed the wood into the sawmill. But that 5115 is far too modern for anyone here to really take seriously. The sawmill's not running right now. You see it's not belt fed. It's running off a PTO of a F.A.R.M 400. Although that F.A.R.M 400 does have a belt drive. A lot of wood's been made on this sawmill. It's threshing time. That beautiful steam engine is all pressurized, running that belt drive over to a classic thresher. You gotta feed the grain. Useless chaff comes out from the top there, usually into a truck or a trailer. And the valuable grain comes into that smaller grain cart in the middle of the machine. Here it comes. Did you see that? Nice flow of grain through there. You seem to save up a little bit of it and then open up the hatch. Mr. Oder is on top directing everything as usual. Steam engine's working its magic. That's a long belt. Later we'll try to catch that small baler, that Oliver baler, baling up all that chaff. So we'll see when that happens. Also belt fed, of course. Here's a more focused view of that steam engine. It says A.D. Baker Company, Swanton, Ohio. It's been here at Oders Lake for years. Very reliable, very powerful machine. Still eating. Got the F.A.R.M B over here running very nicely. These are cute little tractors. Got the drawbar that swings fully left to right. Got a belt drive, even has a belt coiled up sitting there waiting for it. Running well, nice and smooth, good idle. It's got that aluminum Chinese carburetor that I use on mine. Not great for collectors, but it's great for people who want their tractors to run instead of the cast iron carburetors that fill your fuel with rust. Walking down here through Vendor Row. A lot of good stuff for sale. Antiques of all kinds, tractors. Nice dump truck over there. Really good price, $9,000 on that dump truck. Ford's in very good condition. A lot of small lawn tractors, tools. Massey Harris 44. Great collector's tractor. Again, no 3-point hitch, so the usability in today's world isn't great, but that one's in great shape. $2,200. That's a steal. You couldn't come close to restoring one for that cost, and this is in great shape. A lot of good deals here. A 2-bottom plow, some tractor tires. These tires would fit my Massey Ferguson's, but I already have good wheels and tires, and these are already sold. But it was a good price. Some blacksmithing going on over here. Something for everybody.